I'm with Gary Jenkins, former detective, Kansas City Police Department Intelligence Unit, now runs Gangland Wire podcast, also has an app on Kansas City Mob Tour, and is an expert on the whole mob scene in not only Kansas City but nationwide. Gary, with all the revived interest in the mafia and the mob and all that, that is reaching out, especially to a lot of newer people who are new to it, people want to know what folks were like. Now, Oscar Goodman, former mayor of Las Vegas, who was a mob lawyer, in his book said that Nick Civella, Kansas City mob boss, who was one of his clients, was kind of a well-read guy and maybe a misunderstood guy. He just liked to go into Las Vegas and go to this particular restaurant and get a particular dish. What was, you knew Civella, what was he like?
Well, Nick Civella was a really bright guy, and especially not schooled, but in the area of native intelligence, and he also knew that you need to keep everything on the down low, stay quiet, stay personable with people who, like staff, where he would do business. For example, in his lawyer's office, I've talked to the gal who was the legal assistant there during that time, and she said, I remember meeting him, and he was just so personable. I remember he came over and congratulated me on my recent engagement. And I just really liked the guy, but then I found out later he was Nick Civella. And she said, I was quite surprised. I talked to another man who's a lawyer in Kansas City today, and he said Nick was a real well-read guy. He read a lot. He knew, he had some understanding of history. He was personable, and when you talked with him, and that was my experience with him. A little bit of dealings. I didn't have a lot of dealings with him, but he was personable. But he also had an edge too. I had a newspaper reporter, Bill Norton, up in Kansas City. The mob, the family, Nick Civella sued the Kansas City Star for continually reporting about their mob activities. Bill was on the stand, and Nick Civella moved over where he could get real close to him. It was a hearing. It wasn't a formal trial setting. It was a hearing, so it was a little more informal. And Nick was able to move into a chair where he's a little bit closer to him, and he kind of whispered to him and said, "Go ahead, Bill. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead, Bill," but real quietly. So he was just an interesting guy that was extremely bright and commanded respect nationwide. For example, it was Nick Civella who sent his underboss, Carl Tuffy Luna, out to Las Vegas to tell Alan Glick that he had to sell the Stardust, that he had to get out of the casino business and pay off his Teamsters loan, and he was going to dictate the terms on who he sold it to. Chicago didn't send somebody out. It was Nick Civella, Kansas City, really was given the job to oversee the actual upper echelon of the casino business that Chicago, Kansas City, Milwaukee, and Cleveland had their fingers into.
Thank you, Gary Jenkins.